Hello and welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour. And today is Thursday, February 18th, 2021. As always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today, whether you're listening live or listening through the archives, as we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools for improving your life, your relationships, and your emotional state, moment to moment. If you go to whyagain.org, whyagain.org, and click on the red and white bullseye, it'll take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Ryce's book. His book is titled, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? That book chapter contains a narrative description of the primary tool in this work. That tool is the Reality Management Worksheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet. If you go there and read that chapter, you can also click on a link in that page and download the PDF file and print it off as often as you'd like, the actual worksheet process itself. There's a whole host of audio files that you can download and listen to over and over again that provide a tutorial, as it were, for how to go through that worksheet process and to understand in different levels how and why it's so powerfully effective despite being deceptively simple. There are a whole host of other worksheets you can download there, but you can also go to your app store and type in the three words HeartLand Aramaic Forgiveness and get access to a completely free and private app that contains the Reality Management Worksheet, an abbreviated version of that worksheet process, and a copy of the Dragon Klingon game, which is a wonderful way to introduce these tools to even younger audiences. So we encourage people to do that soon and often, and then give us a call if you've got comments or questions. Currently, we're here 5 days a week, 2 hours a day, to do that fielding of questions and deepening people's understanding and strengthen their skills with using these tools. We've also agreed this year to go through a Course in Miracles lessons, and yesterday, due to my personal processing, we didn't talk about the lesson at the beginning of the show. We talked about it briefly at the end, but yesterday's lesson, Lesson 48, read, There is nothing to fear. And today's lesson, Lesson 49, reads, God's voice speaks to me all through the day. The commentary reads, It is quite possible to listen to God's voice all through the day without interrupting your regular activities in any way. The part of your mind in which truth abides is in constant communication with God, with the Creator, with all that is. And that's true whether you are aware of it or not. It is the other part of your mind that functions in the world and obeys the world's laws. It is that part of your mind that is constantly distracted and disorganized and highly uncertain. The part of your mind that is listening to the voice for God or for all of creation, the part of your mind that is connected to the one mind, is calm, always at rest, and completely, wholly certain. It is really the only part there is. The other part is a wild illusion, frantic and distraught, but without reality of any kind. Try today not to listen to the frantic, distraught part of your mind. Try to identify with the part of your mind where stillness and peace reign forever. Try to hear the Creator's voice call to you lovingly, reminding you that your Creator has not forgotten His children. We will need at least 4 5-minute practice periods today, and more if possible. We will try actually to hear the Creator's voice reminding you of all creation and your connection to the one mind, and reminding you of your true self, spiritual self. We will approach this happiest and holiest of thoughts with confidence. We will know that in doing so, we are joining our will with the will of creation. Creation wants you to hear its voice. Creation gave that voice to you to be heard. Creation gave rise to you, and you are only, always, and forever connected to the whole as a part of the creation. You're encouraged to listen in deep silence. You're encouraged to be very still and open your mind. You're encouraged to go past all the ruckus shrieks and sick imaginings that cover your real thoughts and obscure your eternal link with the one mind. You're encouraged to sink deep into the peace that awaits for you beyond the frantic, riotous thoughts and the sights and sounds of this insane world. You do not truly live here. We are trying to reach your real home. We are trying to reach the place where you are truly welcome. We are trying to reach conscious connection to all of creation. Do not forget to repeat today's idea very frequently. Do so with your eyes open when necessary, but closed when possible. And be sure to sit quietly and repeat the idea for today whenever you can, closing your eyes on the world and realizing that you are inviting the Creator's voice to speak to you. And Pam Grout, in her book, Course in Miracles Experiment, her chapter 49 is titled, Thing 1 and Thing 2. She quotes Philip K. Dick as saying, "To fight the empire is to be infected by its derangement." Pam writes, Dr. Seuss's Thing 1 and Thing 2 wear red jumpsuits and blue afros. My Thing 1 and Thing 2 are voices that compete in my head with opposing narratives. Thing 1 is my creative voice. It says things like, dance, sing loudly, high-five that stranger on the bridge. It's the part of my mind that Lesson 49, Source speaks to me all through the day, assures me is in constant communication, even when I'm not aware of it. On the other hand, Thing 2 is my monitor voice. It urges caution. It measures what I could lose. It teaches me to be a consumer. It conditions me to focus on my safety, to wriggle into a constrictive mold, so people I don't even know will say to me, good job. Thing 2 is what the Course calls the ego. It lives in the past. It worries about the future. Is obsessed with lack. Basically, it's a grievance machine. Thing 2 is happiest when it's pretending to be me. Today, I make note of Thing 2's deranged and distractive narrative. Instead of fighting it, I simply notice. I choose to identify instead with that part of my mind, Thing 1, where stillness and peace forever reign. This lesson promises I can easily listen to Thing 1 without interrupting my regular activities in any way. Instead of saying things like, I'm anxious, or this course makes no sense, I will stop 4 times today for 5 minutes each and remind myself, oh, Thing 2, that other part of my mind, might be anxious. And Thing 2, that other part of my mind, might believe the course makes no sense. But Thing 1 is right here, safe, unencumbered, and unaffected in any way. So that's Pam Grout's take on Lesson 49. And we live in our total safety, and the voice of the Creator speaks in us all through the day. So we have plenty of time to talk. 563-999-3581. If you have comments or questions, call that number and press 1. Or if you have comments and questions, send me an email at tjh@mindshifters-academy.org. Also, feel free to go to mindshiftersacademy.org and download the information for how to join us tonight on our Thursday support group through Zoom. It's free. You can donate if you want, but there's no requirement for payment, and I'd love to have you join us and or forward that information to somebody you think might benefit from that community of people who are using these tools, learning about these tools, and expanding their ability to apply them in various situations effectively. Again, it's worth repeating because occasionally when I repeat this, I do get an idea. And tomorrow in the morning hours, I will be pursuing one of those ideas. Somebody had recommended the book Trowbridge Road by Marcella Pixley. And I read the book, and it has a lot to do with mental health issues, relationship issues for teens and preteens, and those of us who live with teens and preteens or who have our own struggles in life. And Marcella has agreed to be interviewed, so she will be interviewed tomorrow morning. And if that interview has a good flow to it and content, I will work at making it available on Mindshifters Radio one of these days. It will also be available in a few weeks on the On Your Mind podcast with Journey's Dream. So if you've read a book or if you have a favorite motivational speaker and you would like to recommend that we read that book or contact that speaker, I would be grateful. I have often appreciated the ways that the community has expanded my reach and helped educate me when people recommend their favorite authors and books and spiritual coaches, etc. So if you want to contribute that way, we'd be happy to take your comments or suggestions. Again, either through 563-999-3581 or send me an email at tjh@mindshifters-academy.org. I had the benefit yesterday, I had the privilege of interviewing Laura McGowan, who wrote the book We Are the Luckiest. And I'm not sure I mentioned this, but if you go to Laura McGowan, McKowen.com, and then you click on book, then the page comes up with her book, and Glennon Doyle is the first person listed there to recommend Laura's book. And that was thrilling because I've also recommended Glennon Doyle's book, Untamed, to quite a few people for a similar reason. The recognition about how the pathway to healing is deeper and deeper, more profoundly deep honesty with myself, primarily with myself, and then with at least one other person. And the only way out is through, and every time I keep any kind of a secret from myself or from somebody else, however much mental energy it takes for me to keep that secret, it takes an an equal amount of my mental energy and pours it into the negative conclusion that I'm damaged, I'm broken, I'm unlovable. And if the person I'm hiding this secret from finds out about it, they're either going to attack me or run away from me. And neither one seems like a good option. So every time I go to hide a secret, I feed within myself the conclusion that I'm damaged, broken, and unlovable. And there's the mechanism right there by which my secrets keep me sick. So if you want to read a book, it's probably one of the most powerfully honest books you'll ever read. We Are the Luckiest by Laura McGowan, or Untamed by Glennon Doyle. Both of them have discovered the same deep truth, and as powerfully effective writers, they communicate that dynamically and effectively. So our call-in number is 563-999-3581. If you call that number and press 1, we can have a conversation. Did you have comments or questions about the sharing I did yesterday? Do you have comments or questions about worksheets you need to be doing to make sure your life is more safe and sane and livable? Do you have suggestions for a book we should read or an author we should interview? I don't know what our topic is going to be tonight in the group. We haven't laid that out yet. On Tuesday, we were doing the Michael Singer course titled Living from a Place of Surrender. And it's really created a lot of discussion for various people. Every once in a while I have somebody who says, well, wait a minute. If I can do what Michael Singer's talking about, why do I need the Reality Management Worksheet? If I can just go to that space in my mind that Course in Miracles lesson is talking about in lesson 49, where it says, you know, the voice of the Creator is with me, constantly talking to me. Why would I need a tool like the Reality Management Worksheet? If the voice of God speaks to me all through the day, and if I tune into that and I feel that bliss, why would I need a worksheet? And my answer to people who ask that question is, if you can tap into that bliss on demand, moment to moment, you don't need a worksheet. But if for whatever reason you slip out of that bliss, I have found it to be most effective to use a two-prong approach. And the two prongs of that approach are, number one, I tap into that bliss soon and often. I use what Michael Ryce talks about in the first part of the worksheet process, and I remind myself that my true nature as part of the creation is the extension of creative energy and form. Every bit as much as a magnificent stallion or an eagle soaring or a dynamic sunset or the Grand Canyon, that my true nature is a miracle of creation expressing in form. And then the second prong is that any time I understand, that I experience, that I feel a negative emotional state or a negative thought, I want to use the tools available to understand and dismantle that negative energy, that false belief, that traumatic energy that's been stored in my system that keeps getting stirred into activity. And with those two prongs of that approach, I have been dramatically improving my experience of life for the past, it's been over 16 years. I've lost track exactly, but we've been doing the support group for 16 years. It'll be 17 at the end of the summer. So just to recap, if you're able to tap into bliss on demand any moment, then, maybe you want to pass the information about the Reality Management Worksheet onto somebody else, but you certainly don't need it yourself. And I just want to thank you for sticking around on the planet long enough to grace us with your presence and your loving energy, because you could probably just learn to transmute the body into energy anytime you want, and be in constant connection with the one mind. Area code 843. You're in the air. Who do we have?
Yes, hi. This is Grace. I sound a little weird because I'm in a lot of pain. I had surgery and things went wrong there. But I'm calling in because like, if reading books, I love to read. I am totally addicted to books. And I come to find out that some books carry a really negative energy. I've been searching for healing and books of transformations and self-help. But I come to realize that some books are dangerous. And I immediately, like, I don't know how to explain this. It also goes hand in hand with like mixing certain types of healing systems together, that it shouldn't be done. Either you stick to one system or the other. And there I just made two comments, totally separate comments. What do you think?
Well, I'm not quite sure what you mean about books being dangerous, so I'm not sure I could agree or disagree, because I'm not clear about what you're referring to.
Okay, some books carry a certain type of energy that could sway you in the darkness. It could be like sorcery or, witchcraft type of books in disguise of other books.
Okay, well, I mean, essentially what we talk about in this work is this two-prong approach that I was just talking about. One is recognizing that your true nature as a part of creation is the energy of creation. Some call it the energy of love. Some call it, being one with the universe. Some call it, the child of God. But the essence of it is you as a human being with conscious awareness, you're a miracle. You're every bit as much a miracle as any other aspect of the creation. And then the other prong of the approach that we recommend here is the active use of a tool to dismantle any false belief that comes up in you that says you're not the energy of creation expressing in form, that you're not an infinite part of all creation and loved by the Creator, because those are false thoughts and beliefs. And when you talk about darkness, one of the most useful things that I've encountered is the concept that darkness is simply the absence of the light of awareness. And that if you get to complete, full awareness, that's your light, that's the light of you as a creator, and it transmutes whatever you might call as darkness.
Right, like a two-sided coin, and it'll turn into the light on the other side. Is that what you mean?
No, I mean, essentially all there is light. One of the people that we like to talk about is Dale Allen Hoffman. He does a lot of work with translating the ancient Aramaic directly into English and understanding deep spiritual teachings at a very practical level. And he says in one of his talks, what do we call the side of the moon that the sun refuses to shine on? And generally speaking, more than one person in the audience will shout out, the dark side of the moon. And Dale says, well, actually, it was a trick question, because the sun doesn't refuse to shine at all. All the sun does is shine. The dark side of the moon is the part of the moon that's turned away from the light of the sun. And so
Wow.
if you think about the darkness, if you think about the unconscious as simply things you've lived through, your life experience, your thoughts, your beliefs, that for whatever reason you reached the conclusion that it was not safe for you to look at those things. So you've turned your focus away. You've hidden those things from yourself. And what if that's the only thing that creates an unconscious in a human being? What if I was doing some talk about processing I did yesterday? I had an interaction or a whole series of interactions with my dad when I was 3 where I probably said some things that were a little bit too emotionally attuned and poignant for him, and he recoiled in disbelief or in horror. And I downloaded a whole bunch of energy at that time, thinking I was bad, it wasn't safe to be aware of those things or share those things, and so I blocked it from my consciousness. And now here I am, I'm in my 60s, and I'm doing all kinds of good psychological and emotional work, and I keep returning to that time when I was 3. Well, guess what? When I was 3 years old, having my dad recoil from me in horror was something I didn't have any tools, any coping mechanisms to deal with. So I downloaded this belief that this situation, these memories are too painful for me to live with. So I blocked them from my conscious awareness. But here I am in my 60s. What was too much for me to deal with when I was 3 years old is not too much for me to deal with. So if I have these tools like the Reality Management Worksheet that Michael and Jeanie Ryce make available absolutely free, and I figure out that I'm feeling a negative emotion today, and I figure out what my mind is telling me about who's causing it and what my goal is, and cancel that and ask to be shown the hidden part of my mind, when I flash back to my 3-year-old self, now I've got something I can work with. Now I can explore that memory and the negative thoughts and beliefs I downloaded, the intense negative emotions, and as I did yesterday, make a connection between that event when I was 3 and a similar event between myself and my father when I was 21, just coming home from college, and a similar event with myself and a professor, a psych professor that I had looked up to for a couple of years earlier in that year. And now I get to see, oh, wait a minute. When I was 21 and I broke down crying in front of my college professor, it wasn't because my 21-year-old self didn't know how to deal with the situation. It was because my 3-year-old self had gotten activated and was flooding me with emotions and just kept asking, what do you want from me? Why isn't everything I've done for you, why isn't it good enough? That's exactly what I was feeling at 3. And as I bring that to the light of awareness, it loses its power over me. It loses its power to drive my behavior as an adult in his 60s. So this is this very practical set of tools we offer. And it's Grace, right?
Yes.
Right? You said your name is Grace. And Grace,
yes, well, they call me Grace. My name is Sulema.
Your name is what? Excuse me?
Sulema.
Sulema.
Sulema, but they call me Grace.
All right. So I'll go with whatever you prefer. But when
His grace
people
is sufficient.
okay. When people ask me questions like, what do you think about, are there books that have evil in them, and should you mix different spiritual teachings at the same time? My answer, my most preferred answer is, well, I don't know the actual answer. I don't have a direct line to infallible knowledge. So let me ask you, if I did have the perfect answer to your question, what concrete difference would it make in your life today or tomorrow or next week? So if we can get at what is it that you're trying to decide about your own activities that might help you, maybe we could answer that question. But those hypothetical, those generalized questions about is there evil in books and is it wrong to mix two different self-help techniques or two spiritual techniques, I don't know how to answer that. I don't have the answer to that. But I might have some answers that would help you practically improve your life, like the tools that are on the whyagain.org website and the tools that we offer and support people in using in the Mind Shifters groups.
Right. Well, I have experienced many years ago, like 12 years ago, I did the worksheets and I experienced that bliss that you were talking about with Michael Ryce and Jeanie's work, and it was just so amazing. And I didn't even know how to do the worksheets, and I just was feeling overwhelmed, and I had the worksheets. I had brought Michael Ryce's book, and it was amazing. I had results, and it was a bliss that I just can't describe. I mean, it was something out of this world. It was just amazing.
And
so
have
I'm going
you
to
stepped
continue
back
with
into
that.
doing that again?
Well, just now I just came back to it. Michael and Jeanie Ryce sent me an email, and I was so grateful because I'm going through so many things, and when I saw them, I was so happy that they were well, and I remembered years ago that I picked up those worksheets that one time and just did several worksheets on a lot of things, and slime came out of my mouth, and I felt this peace just came over me, and the bliss, and I heard, guidance everywhere, post signs everywhere, billboards, trucks, you name it. My answers, anything I thought I had an answer to, and it was just amazing. And I said, "Wow, I gotta get back in this," and I really didn't practice it.
Okay, so
then,
is there something
really
we can support you with today in doing a worksheet or in choosing a mind shifter that might be relevant? How can we support you today?
Yes, I am in really big pain, and I took a painkiller, and I don't like big pharma. And I'm in despair with pain because they didn't set my foot straight in my cast. And I'm in level 10s, going from level 10s to electrical shocks in my foot.
And so how would you like us to support you with that?
Well, I'm feeling in despair.
Okay, so despair would be the emotion that you would put on the worksheet in slot 1B.
Yes.
And you can say, I, Grace, who am love, I'm feeling despair. And then what's happening is, very briefly in 1C, you would write whether it's yourself in your pain after surgery or you're in despair because the surgeons made a mistake. You would put that in 1C. And then the thought that you would use in 1D that's creating the despair is something like, I'm stuck, I'll never get out of this. Right? This is too much, I can't handle this. Some thought like that will come to you, and it will resonate an even stronger sense of despair.
Yes.
So, am I
can
going
handle
to...
it. No,
okay,
you're doing fine.
Am I going too fast? Okay, so now you've got A and B and C and D in the worksheet all lined out. Now the next thing to do is to figure out, are you willing to commit to go through the physical, mental, and emotional symptoms of healing? Are you willing to connect consciously to your true nature as love.
And I would check all three, right?
All right? And whatever the worksheet has, all those different things on it. I'm not looking at a worksheet right now, but that's
Me
step
neither.
2, is to reconnect, right? And
Yes.
then the third step is to get specific about what is the goal that if it were met, you would not have to pick up this worksheet. You wouldn't be in despair.
Right. That the orthopedics the orthopedic nurses and the cast setters, if they would have set my foot right, I wouldn't have this pain.
Okay. So if in 1C in the worksheet you had specified that the problem was the orthopedic surgeon and nurses set your foot wrong, then that would be a good goal. If in 1C you had, I'm in this excruciating pain after surgery, then the goal might be that you are healthy and vibrant and, living in joy physically, mentally, and emotionally. So that could be two
put it in
different.
a positive tense, right?
Well, and that's always the goal. We're always going to try and have a goal be something that's positively stated.
Yes.
In these worksheets. That's how we find that they're most beneficial. So if I have a lot of pain, I would set a goal to be vibrant and healthy and comfortable in my body.
Yes.
Yeah. And then when I go to
Right,
cancel that goal, it will open up a different part of my mind that currently is hiding or containing the connection between wanting to be healthy and happy and having despair.
Yes.
Right. If Michael Ryce were on the call with you, he might say something like, so how does it look like your life to be in despair? How many times in your life, at various times in your young and middle-aged life, have you felt despair about this or anything else?
Most of my life.
There you go. So he would say, okay, so what we're talking about here is a lifelong pattern, and the worksheet will help me understand that I'm not really feeling despair about my foot and about my healing. What's happening is my foot and the pain I'm in and the thoughts I'm using to build my interpretation of this life event are resonating this pool of despair that I have, that I've had most of my life. And so I want to do the worksheet, figure out what the goal is, and cancel the goal so I can get access to that hidden part of my mind, like we were talking earlier, the unconscious, the part of my mind I have not been willing to look at.
Yes.
And shebag, cancel, unload, dismantle, get rid of some of that energy that I've been carrying with me for years, sometimes decades.
And will the pain
sense?
subside from that? Yes.
Well, let me answer that question this way. I had a time back a number of years ago where I was rollerblading when I was 45 years old, and I snapped my ankle in half, shredded the ligament, and broke both bones, or all three bones, however you look down there. And it took surgeries to fix them. And as I was trying to recover from that, it was before I'd learned Michael Ryce's work, and it was before I'd learned the EFT tapping, and I had maybe I was less than 45. Anyway, the point is, as I was recovering from the surgery, I was laying there with lots of thoughts about, I was an idiot, I'm too old to be roller hockey playing, I could have gotten seriously hurt, maybe I wouldn't be here for my sons, and I was beating myself up with negative emotions, and it took a long time for my bone to heal and for the wound to heal, and the orthopedic surgeon noted, yeah, you're a slow healer. A number of years later, when I'd learned Michael Ryce's work and I'd learned the EFT tapping business, and I was incorporating these things in my life much more. I'd learned the neuroemotional technique. And I learned a lot more about the connection between my negative mental state and healing, and my positive mental state and healing. And I had another accident where I broke and dislocated a toe, and I went back to the same orthopedic surgeon, and I was tapping through the whole process, and I've written articles about it and how well it heals, how quickly. And the orthopedic surgeon said, "Wow, you're a real fast healer." I said, "Nope, you got to remember X number of years ago when I was here for that, I was even younger and healthier, and I didn't heal well at all." So I don't know if all of your pain will go away. I do know that if you're like me, the attitude you have toward pain creates a lot of the experience that you have when you're in pain. If you're anything like me, that will be true. And so if you can do the worksheets and dismantle, in this case, your negative emotion is despair, and or anger at yourself, and or anger at the orthopedic nurses. If you dismantle that energy, there's more energy available for your body to do the healing. And if you haven't tapped into it yet, I would, pardon the pun, I would highly recommend that you look into EFT tapping. You can go to YouTube, absolutely free, and search for Brad Yates. Brad, the more I've listened to his videos and watched them, it sounds just like me when I used to teach that 2 or 3 times a year for over 10 years. He stays very close to what the creator, Gary Craig, does with his EFT tapping, and it's a wonderful supplement to any kind of mental and emotional and physical healing. Using EFT tapping is like giving yourself an acupressure treatment for anything that bothers you physically, mentally, or emotionally. And for people who resonate well with it, it is a game changer. It's a life changer.
It is? And how long have you been doing it?
Well,
sorry.
I don't know, maybe 20, 25 years.
Wow.
But the idea is that it uses knowledge of the acupuncture meridians, and then rather than using needles and pinpoint accuracy, you just rub or tap on these energy points while you keep your breath moving, and you visualize the energy flowing through you. And for some people, it's nearly miraculous how effective it is.
Wow. That sounds great.
Since it's available absolutely free on YouTube, and you can search for Brad Yates, Y-A-T-E-S, and you can search for, pain management, Brad Yates, anxiety, Brad Yates, money issues, whatever. And you can search by the issues and get all kinds of videos and just tap along with him. You don't need any extensive classwork in the EFT theory to get benefit.
I'm going to try that.
Or you can join us in our Mind Shifter support groups, because anytime anybody has issues, we invite them to do EFT tapping, and everybody on the call will tap along if they're so inclined. So there's all kinds of good free ways to get access to this tool that might help you with your pain and the emotional. And
you have that tonight?
Yeah, it's Tuesdays and Thursday nights. You can find all the information on the website at mindshiftersacademy.org.
Yes.
Tonight's a Thursday night, so you want to make sure that you tap into the login information for Thursday, not Tuesday.
I will. At what time does it start?
It's 6:30 to 9 p.m. Central Time.
Okay. All right.
So, is there anything else we can do to support you today?
Have you ever heard of the book Falun Dafa Falun Gong, Feng Shui.
Well, I couldn't quite hear what you said, but if the title of a book was in there, probably not.
It's Falun Dafa.
No, I have not heard of it.
Okay. Falun Dafa is a system. It's an original. It came from an original system of Qigong. And once you start that, it opens all your meridian glands at once. But they're very, very strict, and they don't allow to mix the systems. And they believe from my understanding, because I'm not supposed to interpret the book at all. I'm only supposed to say it's from my understanding that the healers are what they're doing when they heal because is stopping someone from paying their karma, which will in turn make one of their relatives or shift the karma to another area in their life. And it's just, I guess that's why they're saying not to mix the systems because, I was studying to be a shaman and I had to cancel out because, it interfered with other things. So,
okay, well, I don't have any knowledge that would allow me to comment intelligently on that. So I would just say if that's part of what somebody believes in a system and it works for them, more power to them. But that's not anything I've ever found to be true for me.
Right, because it is relevant, absolutely relevant about mixing systems because let's, for instance, say that is true, then it could actually hurt you. So,
well, and there are some people that believe that, but I don't have knowledge of that to be able to comment.
Okay.
So if you're doing another system and that system tells you not to mix systems, then you're going to have to make the decision for yourself whether or not you just stick with the one or you blend to try and get the best results you can.
Oh, no, I'm going along with Michael Ryce and Jeanie because they gave me results when I did it and not even knowing what I was doing. And if you get results, if it works, that's what matters.
Well, that would be my preference, to just be results-oriented. So if you see fit to join us today, please do, or this evening, I should say. And I appreciate the call.
Hopefully I won't be on painkillers. Hopefully I won't be on painkillers. I'll try the EFT tapping before I go on.
All right.
Thank you,
Well,
Tim.
thank you for the call. You're entirely welcome. Thank you, Grace. Blessings.
Blessings to you, too.
So we have 10 minutes left. If you have a comment or a question or you want to piggyback on something that Grace was talking about, our call-in number is 563-999-3581. If you call that number and press 1, we can have a conversation. Or if you're in the chat room and you want to type in a question, we'll be happy to do our best to entertain that question. Or if you have, if you would rather submit the question by email, tjh@mindshifters-academy.org. Let us know how we can support you. Susan, you're in the air.
Hi, Dr. Tim. That was a really interesting discussion with Grace. And, man, she calls you when she's in pain. Oh, boy. I loved the discussion about, I loved a lot of it, but the discussion about sticking to one methodology and not spreading out. There is the idea that perhaps it's good to dig one well really deep rather than several wells really shallowly. But what you're doing is every so-called tangent that you go on reveals the same truth. I don't think there's any problem with reading this book and hearing it said one way and reading another book and having it said another way. But in my life, I have found, for instance, I have a psychic friend, and when Grace was talking about things that sounded like karma and psychic, and I have a friend who wants me to be her client, partly just to be a guinea pig because she's new at one modality of another, and then she'll try another modality and she'll call me up and say, oh man, this one's it. I'm using magnets and I'm taking a little seminar on it, and I'll be ready to be an instructor on this, and I'd love to have you try it. And sometimes I have, but usually when I tried one thing, it would lead to a person's desiring that I stay with that, and it's often quite different. It may eventually turn out to be the same type of work, but, I have stayed with Michael's tools now for about 5 years, and I know I can't imagine stopping using them. I can imagine reading all kinds of other stuff only to discover that they feed into what the worksheet is really teaching. So, and then the other part you were talking about is some literature is dangerous. I wonder if Grace meant, like sometimes I'll watch a movie. I don't watch very many movies because I find them so powerful in their influence of my mood. It isn't exactly that I'm triggered. I just feel as if this isn't healthy or helpful or safe, or it feels dark, and I may stop the movie. And and books too. There are books that I've started and I've thought, I just don't want to go here. It doesn't feel like wholesome input. And I'm wondering if that's what she meant there. I mean, too bad she isn't still on the line, because I wonder if that's what she meant.
Well, it seemed as though she was being more specific about people that are saying that if you're healing somebody, you're just shifting their karma, and it's going to have to go to somebody else, and that it's
that was
very
the stranger thing. Yeah.
Well, it's just it's one of the many variations in understandings. There are many, many different ways to understand life and energy and healings, and that's just one of the many.
Yeah, well, maybe that's what she was meaning. Not that it didn't feel wholesome or something. Yeah.
Well, there are people who are absolutely committed to the belief that there's a battle going on between dark and light, and that the dark forces are every bit as powerful as the light forces. And then there are those who their experience has been that there's only the light, and everything is either the allowance and the acceptance and being in conscious connection with the light, or hiding from the light and doing a distortion or an illusion. So everybody has to make their own, find what they're comfortable with, and I recommend that people find what works for them. My recommendation routinely is to be results-oriented. And whatever tools you find that work for you, keep using them.
Mm-hmm. This reminds me of that quote you read at the beginning of today's lesson in Pam Grout's book. I don't have the book right with me. If you have it in front of you, it was a wonderful quote.
To fight the empire is to be infected by its derangement.
Yeah. Boy, the empire, I remember, was capitalized, which means probably that it means that it's dark or evil, right?
Well, the idea to me speaks of the ancient teaching that says resist not evil. Guy Finley interprets that as do not oppose what opposes you.
Mhm.
Because in that process, you become one who is in opposition.
Right. Wow.
So you are basically mimicking the thing that you say you don't like and don't want.
Right.
Another way to say it in popular parlance is to say, what we resist persists.
Mhm.
So anything that we push against, we're adding energy to.
Yeah. Well, I was using this quote to justify, maybe erroneously and maybe right, combination, for not being an out on the streets political activist anymore. I've done marches and I've carried my placards, and I've done it with a spirit of peacefulness, I think. But even going out there, I wonder if that is a kind of resistance. At least I was interpreting it. I was just hoping I'd be justified in staying home during marches, making that a good reason to send peaceful thoughts out there, wish everyone well, but not necessarily go out there anymore myself.
Well, if you can go out there and be in that peaceful state, that's one thing. But if you have to get yourself all riled up to go out there, then these kinds of teachings would have us take a look at what kind of energy are we adding to the energy on the street. And so, essentially, like Laura McGowan's book talks about this radical level of truth, what's most important is that I'm honest with myself about my negativity. I don't have to immediately try to end it. Right? If I push against every negative thought I have, then I'm doing what, Philip K. Dick, if I push against every negative thought I have, then I'm doing what, Philip K. Dick in the quote in the Pam Grout book says, I'm fighting against the empire, and now my life is going to be determined by the thing I think I'm against. This is another way people say it. Don't talk about what you're against. Tell us about what you're for.
Yeah.
Work positively for the change you want to see, rather than working against the things that you don't believe in or disbelieve. There's all those different ways to say it. Say again?
I added another dimension to it, though, thinking I can go out there with all the peace in my heart, but I don't know what is being projected onto me by those who differ from this point of view and who may feel hostility and fear. I don't want to inspire that, even if I don't intend to, and even if I'm sending them love exchanges all the way down the street. But maybe I'm overthinking things.
Well, it's a good set of thoughts and a good set of things that if you get triggered doing them, you can do the worksheets. And I thank you for the call. I realize that we're out of time. I'm not sure that Jeanie is here yet, but I will.
Michael is.
Oh, welcome.
Oh, hey, thanks, sir.
Welcome.
Is that Jeanie's voice I'm hearing in the background, too?
Yep, I'm here.
Hey, sweetie, I'll just turn it over to you then. I'm just pulling out of the Sarasota airport. Just dropped somebody off at the airport.
All right, I'll just remind us all that we come from love. We're made of the stuff we call love. We actually are love, and everything else is false. Welcome, Jeanie.
Yay.
Thank you. So welcome
Blessings,
to the
Dr.
second
Tim.
hour